Episode 37. Exceptions to the conditions. Don't tell me this car cost $5 million. Oh my God, Jade muttered to herself. A vision of a huge pile of money surfaced in her mind. She felt she couldn't earn that much money, even if she worked the rest of her life. From the looks of things, Dario seemed to be quite rich. Maybe it would be no problem for him to pay off her grandmother's bills. She began to feel more at ease. But David really wanted to defend Dario Foster against the injustice. The car was worth $5 million, and this was one of his middle-tier cars. His family still owned a few of the limited edition cars that were worth around $30 million. Just when David was deciding whether to tell Jade the truth or not, he felt a chill down his spine. When he looked at the rearview mirror, he saw Dario glaring at him. He swallowed hard and said awkwardly, "A little more than $500,000. Oh, I see. A little over $500,000, Jade thought. $500,000 was enough for her to live on for the rest of her life without working. Besides living with the Winslets, she'd never owned any luxurious brand items before. She only saw the brands that her cousin owned, such as Chanel and Louis Vuitton, but she didn't know how much they cost. Her own bags and outfits cost only a few dollars, just something off the rack. Although her friends always mocked her, she was satisfied with what she had. After all, she earned her own money, and she could use it as she pleased. David was on the verge of tears when he saw Dario's expression. Jade raised her head, looked at Dario, and asked worriedly, "Mr. Foster, are you really rich?" "No," Dario answered without hesitation. He actually did not have any money on him at that moment, just a card that carried a few $100 million. "Then this car?" Dario glanced coldly at David, who began to explain to her while weeping. "Miss Winslet, I was just kidding. Actually, this car only cost around $100,000. He was afraid that she would not believe him, so he added, "I swear." Jade let out a sigh of relief after hearing these words. She said with embarrassment, "That's good. I thought for a moment that Mr. Foster was extremely rich. If that was the case, the status gap between us would be way too big." She clenched her fists and bit her lower lip, afraid that he was like those rich people she knew. It made her think of Bruce, and she never wanted to be toyed with again by rich people. She could not afford to be hurt like that again. An ordinary woman like her should find an ordinary man, she thought. Only then would it be a perfect match. "Yeah, he's not that rich. Look at Lucas. His salary is only $2,000, David said while patting Lucas's shoulder. What he didn't say was that the $2,000 was a daily salary. Naturally, Jade would take it as his monthly salary. Lucas rolled his eyes at him and continued driving. Jade blinked and nodded thoughtfully. $2,000 is good. Sometimes I've earned $1,000 for a TV series for a month." Thinking about how she'd been abused in the film industry earlier, Dario felt his heart ache as his gaze darkened. Despite all her hard work, she had a monthly salary of no more than $1,000. She didn't even earn half of Lucas's daily salary. Dario squeezed her small hand in his strong fist. Jade wanted to pull her hand away, but the more she struggled, the tighter he gripped. Mr. Foster, we're not alone. Have you forgotten our agreement? You can't go back on your word." Close to his warmth, she could feel her own body temperature rising. Dario replied calmly, "I did promise you, but I don't remember you saying that I'm not allowed to hold your hand." Jade was speechless. He was right. She hadn't said that. Dario was always taking advantage of any opportunity, and she regretted it. If only she knew that he would not agree to the conditions so readily, she would have put more thought into it. Even now, she was feeling she'd been too impulsive in accepting his proposal. After all, she barely knew him. They arrived at Stonington University. Jade hopped out of the car before they reached the university's main gates, fearing it would cause another ruckus. But when she rushed to the classroom where the audition was being held, it was nearly deserted, with only a few people milling about. She asked a passerby only to learn that the audition had ended. Plus, she heard that the roles had already been assigned, so the crew probably wouldn't come back. Jade lowered her head with disappointment. The audition manager had been right. There was only one chance, and she had missed it. But even if she had to choose again, she would have chosen the same. After all, her grandmother was the most important person in this world. She rubbed her face, trying to hide her emotions. No matter what, she could still thank the man who brought her. She tried to pretend she was fine, but Dario noticed the sadness in her eyes immediately. He opened the door and stepped out of the car to wait for her. Upon seeing her, he pulled her into his arms. "Mr. Foster, stop it!" Jade jumped in fright, aware that everyone was staring at her. She did not want to draw any attention, but Dario ignored the bystanders and continued hugging her. Did the crew leave? Seeing her come out of the audition room so quickly, he already knew. Yes, Jade nodded with disappointment. But it's fine. Even if I made it in time, I probably wouldn't have been chosen anyway. She comforted herself. Dario continued holding her quietly. Jade breathed in the scent of his body. After some time, she broke free from his strong embrace. I still have to go to the hospital to check on my grandma. I've been away for so long. I wonder if she's okay. Mr. Foster, can you please take me to the hospital? No, Dario said plainly. Jade lowered her chin, feeling uncomfortable. She didn't expect such a harsh rejection. However, it was reasonable, she thought. Did she have the right to ask him for any help at all? Then I'll take the bus. Sorry to bother. Before Jade could finish her sentence, Dario cut her off. Let's have dinner first. What? Before she could object, Dario had already pulled her along. What do you mean, what? It's dinner time. If he had to guess, she probably hadn't even had lunch. I'll pass. I really need to check on Grandma. No, that won't do. You promise me. Dario smiled, with no intention of letting go of her hand.